Alicia, we had no idea. Well, that is our news for this evening. Thanks for joining us. Stay safe on those roads tonight, and the CBS News with Dan Rather is next. Good night.
Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. President Reagan has sent word he has no plans to pressure or pardon key witnesses Oliver North and John Poindexter to end their silence. For his part, Mr. Reagan kept up his own silence today and let his spokesman do the talking. CBS News correspondent Terrence Smith reports the latest evidence that this so-called Stonewall strategy isn't sitting well with the public.
Making his first public remarks in a week, President Reagan avoided mention of the Iran-Contra connection as he signed a proclamation for a national day of prayer.
Religion and morality are indispensable supports. Throughout our history, our leaders have always turned to prayer in times of crisis.
The White House said today that the president has no plans to use his power of pardon to coax testimony from former NSC aides John Poindexter and Oliver North, who have so far taken refuge in the Fifth Amendment. North had a seasonal message for the president.
Colonel, what would you say to President Reagan in the middle of all this turmoil and investigations?
President Reagan also expressed Christmas greetings amid signs that the White House is hoping that the holidays will provide a respite from the daily drumbeat of disclosures on Iran.
They're wrong. This is going to be a temporary respite, and we'll get back into it full scale after the first of the year, with the focus turning to two new investigating committees and a new special counsel. And there'll be stories every day.
In Iowa, where the president was already in trouble with the voters on the farm issue, a new Des Moines Register poll published yesterday revealed more problems. Asked how they thought the administration has handled the Iran-Contra affair, an overwhelming 73% said the White House chose cover-up over candor. The president's job approval rating reached a new low of 34%, down 12 points from September, when the Iowa figures were already below the national average. When asked if the president should resign, something almost no one has suggested, a striking 24% of Iowans said yes.
But White House officials take solace from their own nationwide polls, which they say show the president's approval rating rebounding by about 10 points into the mid-50s. That's still sharply down from his pre-November popularity, suggesting that the president's problems are far from over. Terrence Smith, CBS News, the White House.
CBS News correspondent Rita Braver reports tonight that the questions are building for U.S. Attorney General Edwin Meese. Meese is both a witness and an investigator in the Arms for Iran scandal, and Congress has a lot of questions for Meese on both scores.
Attorney General Edwin Meese's handling of the entire Iran-Contra funding affair will be a key focus of both House and Senate inquiries next year. The complaint, Meese was not aggressive enough about ferreting out wrongdoing in the administration.
At every stage of this, there has been, in my view, the minimum requirement has been met.
At issue, Meese's legal approval of the administration plan to secretly ship arms to Iran without informing Congress. His request that the FBI delay its investigation of Southern Air Transport for involvement in illegal arms shipments to Contras because the airline was also carrying arms to Iran in exchange for hostages. His delay in bringing justice criminal lawyers and the FBI into the case after suspicions that Contras received Iran arms sale profits. His delay of another week before requesting an independent counsel. And now some legal experts suggest that Meese's initial interviews with former National Security Council officials Oliver North and John Poindexter may have complicated the independent counsel's investigation.
The Attorney General put himself in the position of not only being the fact gatherer, but being the chief witness. That's something that no lawyer is supposed to place himself in the position of. That is becoming a witness in a proceeding like that.
But Justice Department officials insist that Meese has performed correctly every step of the way.
After all, bear in mind who was the person that first got to the bottom of the fact that there might be this connection to Nicaragua, into the resistance movement down there. It was Edwin Meese, the Attorney General.
But Meese is already running into conflicts with Congress. Today was his deadline for submitting documents to the House Judiciary Committee. Instead, he said the committee staffers did not have high enough security clearances, and the chairman should look at material already submitted to other congressional committees. Rita Braver, CBS News, Washington.
The Nicaraguan Soviet-supported government paraded its newest U.S. prisoner today at a Managua news conference in Washington. CBS News correspondent David Martin, following on to Mike Wallace's 60 Minutes report, has learned some more details of the man's Pentagon connection.
Sam Hall, the American accused of spying in Nicaragua, was paraded before cameras today, a would-be Rambo who denied he was working for the United States.
For the U.S. government? I'm not working for the U.S. government that I know of.
Hall claimed not to know who had sent him to spy on this Sandinista air base. If Sam Hall did not work for the U.S. government, it was not for lack of trying. In November of 1984, 1 month after Congress banned all U.S. aid to the Contras, Hall came to the Pentagon to see this man, Navy frogman and sometime CIA operative William Hamilton, now retired.
And he wanted to talk about me working with him to see if we couldn't put something together that would enable the freedom lovers to do better than we were doing.
Hall volunteered his services, but to no avail.
I was able to determine very early on that there wasn't a place for Sam in the Navy at that time, that we could not use him.
Okay. So did you send him anyplace else to look for employment?
I did. I introduced him to some other people.
Hamilton won't say it, but those other people worked for the CIA. But the CIA wouldn't hire Hall either, saying he would be too hard to control.
He had a lot of guts. He'd be willing to try anything once Sam would.
Instead, Hall got $10,000 from this man, Ohio industrialist Jess Phillips, who has contributed to at least one other Reagan administration cause, the war on drugs. The $10,000 was seed money to set up a band of freedom fighters, which Hall called the Phoenix Battalion. But raising a secret army turned out to be too expensive.
It was not economical.
No me pagaban.
The budget came to $14 to $19 million a year.
Friends of Hall say he would try anything once, but if he is convicted of spying in Nicaragua, it may be a long time before he gets to try anything again. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
Iran is charging that more than 200 people were killed in Iraqi air attacks on Iranian cities yesterday and today. It was revealed this month that the United States has been providing Iraq with satellite photographs of potential targets inside Iran. On the other hand, it increasingly appears that those supposedly defensive weapons the United States secretly sent to Iran played a key offensive role in one notable Iranian victory on the vital southern front in this Persian Gulf War. CBS News correspondent Bill Redeker in New York tells us how.
February 1986, Port Fao, Iraq. Iranian troops invade and quickly capture this strategically important city, dealing a surprisingly effective blow against the normally superior Iraqi tank forces. Now, indications that it was sophisticated anti-tank tow missiles supplied to Iran by the United States that made the difference.
We sense that the anti-tank units of the Iranian troops were more effective than we expected.
It was, in fact, a very, very significant defeat. The Iranians are still sitting on Fao. The Iraqis, for strategic reasons, have to get them out of there.
In all, more than 2,000 tow missiles have been shipped to Iran. The Reagan administration has downplayed their importance.
I authorized the transfer of small amounts of defensive weapons and spare parts for defensive systems to Iran.
Tow missiles may very well have indeed been used at Fao, but if they were, they weren't defensive. They were part of the Iranian offensive against the Iraqi army.
The administration has said one of the reasons for sending the missiles to Iran was to help bring an honorable end to the bloody 6-year war. But Iraq, which is quietly supported by the United States, doesn't see it that way.
It will not contribute to ending the war. It will contribute to prolonging the war and to bring about more casualties and more destabilization.
The administration's two-track policy apparently failed, undermining rather than stabilizing the already fragile region and leaving many of America's friends in the Gulf wary of Washington. Bill Redeker, CBS News, New York.
Still to come on the CBS Evening News, arrest in New York today in a racial attack likened to a lynch mob. The Voyager heads for home, and the trouble with angels. Why a Welsh choirboy could be singing his swan song.
Chardonnay. Chablis Blanc. Sauvignon. To all those who are coming home, and those we come home to, from Ernest and Julio Gallo, all the best.
They are coming home on a wing and a dream, an incredible journey coming to an end, the first non-stop airplane trip around the world without refueling. Victoria Corderi is following the flight of the Voyager.
Tonight, Voyager is less than 2,000 miles from home, and preparations are beginning for tomorrow's landing at Edwards Air Force Base. What has been dubbed the flying fuel tank now is expected to complete its journey with gasoline to spare.
He's got enough fuel in that airplane that if he took off again without refueling, he could fly to New York and go another 1,000 miles.
Unexpected tailwinds pushed the experimental craft along, enabling it to save fuel throughout the flight. The worst moments so far have been several turbulent storms, at times upending the plane, making the going rough for pilots Dick Rutan and Gina Yeager in their tiny, unpressurized cabin.
They have been literally thrown around inside the airplane. Gina is bruised. We do know that she has some injuries.
Another concern at Mission Control is that curious pilots will try to chase the Voyager and endanger the final leg of the flight. They will no longer release the Voyager's location, only distance traveled and miles to go. Last night, Voyager crossed over Panama and Costa Rica, and headwinds that could have slowed down the plane as it passes off the coast of Mexico today were lighter than expected. Good news for a storm-weary crew.
Their fatigue has been almost to the point of incapacitation. Every emotion has come from this crew during these last 9 days.
Landing is scheduled just after dawn tomorrow. A crowd of 100,000 is expected to witness the crew step off the strange-looking bird and into aviation history. Victoria Corderi, CBS News, Mojave, California.
CBS News will, of course, cover the Voyager landing live tomorrow morning. World oil prices shot up today, the first business day since OPEC agreed to cut production. In Europe, the price hit the OPEC target of $18 a barrel. Analysts say OPEC's action could soon add as much as a dime to the cost of a gallon of gasoline in this country.
The time, right now. The place, your Mazda dealers. The event, Goodbye 86. We're saying goodbye with goodbyes on all our 87s, 323s, 626s, even our X7s. And right now, special factory cash incentives can save you hundreds on 87 B2000 trucks. Buy now, while sales tax is still deductible. But hurry, the end is almost here. Visit your Mazda dealer for a goodbye now. Don't let time run out.
It's a Radio Shack Merry Christmas.
This Christmas, Radio Shack's best-selling portable computer, the Tandy 102, is a better gift than ever. It has 5 built-in programs, and now it's slimmer and lighter and on sale for only $399. Save $100. So when you give the Tandy 102, you've got Christmas in the desk, in the briefcase, or in the bag.
Tandy portable computer, sale priced from $399 only at Radio Shack.
Chinese students who believe communism is outdated and doesn't work were in the streets again today, but their numbers were smaller as authorities cracked down on a situation that was threatening to grow beyond their control. CBS News correspondent John Sheehan is there.
For the 4th straight day, protesters marched in Shanghai. The demonstrations are the biggest public upheaval in China since the Cultural Revolution of the 60s and 70s. The 10 years of mob rule in which millions were persecuted and thousands died.
It's very cyclical in China. This has happened in the past. I think it's always a potentially volatile situation.
Tens of thousands marched to People's Square this past weekend demanding freedom and democracy. Communist officials at first praised the students for wanting to help the government implement reforms. But when the protesters laid siege to the Shanghai City Hall demanding freedom of the press, the powerful official news media attacked the students for allegedly trying to destabilize the country. That showed just how small the tolerance for protest is here once the demonstrators begin to defy authority. The demands for more freedom and democracy could produce exactly the opposite effect.
It's very difficult to give a little bit of freedom which is just what the government has been trying to do.
Today, the students complained that there have been hundreds of arrests and that the police have been taking demonstrators off and beating them, accusations the government vigorously denied. Tonight, the crowd in People's Square has dwindled to hundreds rather than thousands, occasionally jeering at truckloads of departing police. Communist authorities have banned further demonstrations unless they are officially approved in advance. John Sheehan, CBS News, Shanghai.
Dissident Soviet scientist Andrei Sakharov is arriving in Moscow tonight on a train from Gorky. Soviet leader Gorbachev told Sakharov last week that his 7 years of so-called internal exile in Gorky were over and that he was free to return to his work in Moscow. A dissident poet, freed recently from a Soviet labor camp, met today in London with Prime Minister Thatcher. Irina Ratushinskaya said that she's joyful Sakharov is being allowed to return to Moscow, but she charged that at least 4,000 Soviet political prisoners are still in custody. Some Soviet writers and artists are enjoying some newfound freedoms of expression under Gorbachev's rule, but as Wyatt Andrews reports, some ordinary Russians don't share this enthusiasm for change.
For many Moscow residents, Vitsa Park is an oasis of freedom they never thought they would see in their lifetime. No one ever advertised. Word simply spread that unofficial artists were allowed to sell paintings here, that prices were what the artists wanted to charge, that some of the paintings featured previously discouraged abstract art, and most important, the authorities were letting it all happen. Thousands crowd the park every weekend now, as excited by the freedom as they are perplexed by what they see. It is a snapshot of change in the Soviet Union that some get angry about the freedom they see. An example of the fear of change in Mr. Gorbachev's Russia. Recently, avant-garde artists trying to show their art found themselves in heated arguments and found their work trampled, not by militiamen, but by the public. This is not art, some of the people said. This man just walked through one display. Nikita Alexeyev, one of the artists, saw this confrontation as a price to be paid for emerging freedom. This resistance to change, he says, shows what Mr. Gorbachev faces.
Gorbachev asks people to change, asks people to begin to work in a different way, begin to think in a different way than 10 years ago.
This year, Gorbachev has bitterly complained about the slow public response to change. Just like in Vitsa Park, the resistance comes not from any formal opposition, but from a conservative people afraid of any unfamiliar vision. A system of favoritism is already creeping into the oasis of Vitsa Park. Conservative artists have formed what they call a comradeship and have begun to collect a 10-ruble fee for the right to show and sell. They don't want the avant-garde artists to come back. Freer than it was before, but not what it could be. A snapshot of what's called change in Mr. Gorbachev's Russia. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Moscow.
This is where we make the new 3M surgical clipper by Remington. Hospitals are now using this advanced product, replacing blades, to shave patients for surgery safely and comfortably. You can also benefit from Remington's advanced technology. This charger stand keeps the Remington microscreen rechargeable, continually charged. It never needs a cord, and it shaves as close as a blade, or your money back. And the Lady Remington rechargeable also shaves without a cord.
Now, lowest price ever on Remington microscreen cord shaver.
Jolly good fellow, which nobody can deny. The gang's all here, the American Family Multimillionaires Club. And you may be joining the club this February. Grand prize, $10 million from American Family Publishers. Don't miss the sweepstakes with my picture. The American Family Winners Club wants you in the seat of honor.
Right here.
Next to us. They won millions. You could too. $10 million. Just 2 months from now. Join us! Enter today.
Arrests were made today in the New York City version of a racial lynching, a mob of whites attacking 3 black men. Bob Fall has our report.
Somebody!
In sorrow and anger, dozens of blacks massed in the white middle-class neighborhood of Howard Beach to mourn the death of Michael Griffith, a 23-year-old construction worker. He and two friends, marooned in this area late Friday night when their car broke down, were chased by about 10 white youths wielding bats and sticks. Trying to escape on this expressway, Griffith was hit by a car and killed.
Statements were made that niggers, you're in the wrong neighborhood, you don't belong in this neighborhood, get out of here. And my own feelings about this is that it's nothing less than a lynching.
Police, who blanketed Howard Beach this weekend, today announced the arrest of 4 area residents, ages 16 and 17, in what New York's mayor calls the worst murder in the modern era of this city.
To have it happen in New York City, unbelievable that it could happen.
But the fact is, it did happen here, just as racial harassment has been reported this year in South Philadelphia, on Cleveland's east side, on the west side of Chicago. It is shocking but should not be surprising, says the prize-winning author of A Chronicle of Racism in Boston.
We still are going to have to grapple for many years to come with communities which wish to exclude the other.
In Howard Beach, residents bristle when accused of lawlessness, but concede there is an invisible boundary line here which blacks should not cross.
Some of the white people in this neighborhood, the first thing they think when they see blacks is that they don't want them in this neighborhood and for this neighborhood to start filling up with colored people.
It is that attitude which outraged blacks today condemned and vowed to challenge.
We're here because it is our God-given right to be here. And not 1 killing, 2 killings, 3 killings, or 100 killings are going to stop us from going where we want to go.
Police say more charges are likely in the incident, which not only illustrates hatred here, but which also serves as a reminder that America still has boundaries which can be crossed only at peril. Bob Fall, CBS News, New York.
Oh, tired feet, oh, Christmas feet, this endless shopping has me beat.
This year, give the gift of comfort. Give her Isotoner Comfort Slippers. The unique fabric gently shapes to her foot for a soothing barefoot fit. They're a treat for tired feet.
Give comfort slippers for my feet.
Say, these must be Jack's new Canon personal copiers. Great color.
Yeah, and they copy in 5. You want to see?
Go ahead. Make my day.
Everything you need to copy with is in this replaceable cartridge.
I'll do that.
Good thing Canon has PCs for every personality, even pussy agents.
Lighten up, Jack.
These new Canon personal copiers are light. Put one in my car.
What a guy.
Personal copiers for every personality. For information, call toll-free 1-800-OK-CANON.
Many Americans are of Welsh heritage, and in Wales this holiday season, there's a poignant reminder that seasons come and go, that everything has its time. Amid the sounds of joyful music, Tom Fenton reports there is a touch of sadness for one sweet voice whose time is coming to an end.
The Welsh countryside is dotted with reminders of past glory. From the times when the Welsh fought the English, and from the days when industry was booming. But one part of Welsh history hasn't faded over the years, the glory of its choirs. Now, Wales is about to lose one of its finest musical assets, the voice of young Aled Jones. For 3 years, This choir boy has dazzled Britain with a voice so pure, it's been said it sounds more like an angel. He was first noticed by a woman who wrote to a record company after hearing him in a church. Since then, more than 2 million records have been sold, mostly Christmas music. But this is expected to be the last Christmas Aled Jones will sing. At almost 16, his voice is long overdue to break.
From the letters we get, I think many people are going to feel sad when the day comes when Aled's voice breaks.
I'm not bothered anymore. It's going to happen, so what's the point worrying about it?
But in Wales, it's no small loss. A great voice isn't taken for granted here. There was a time when just about every slate and coal mine in Wales had a choir. Mining is now a dying industry. Unemployment in some towns will be near 25% this Christmas, but the village choirs have survived. People are already speculating on what kind of voice the boy will have when it changes.
He may have a wonderful baritone voice, or a wonderful tenor voice, or he may have nothing at all.
It'd be nice if it just slipped down to a lovely tenor voice or something like that, like Pavarotti.
The reality is that great boy sopranos rarely become great adult singers, and Aled Jones will probably fade into history as another reminder of past glory. Tom Fenton, CBS News, Wales.